If you aren't exposed to Bitcoin yet, no big deal. All we want to see for a FOMO long is we just don't want to see this thing closing with a rejection of the upper band. So we don't want to see something like, let me see if I can find an example, something like this. Like, so let's say we go back in time. We go, okay, cool. It's closing right at the upper band. We don't want to see it doing something like this, where you see this rejection off the band. We want to see it, I've been talking about this concept for a few weeks now of like attaching to the upper band. So we definitely don't want to see something like this. This would be at minimum concerning. But rather than something that rejects the top band, we want to see something that accepts the top band. So something more along the lines of this guy right here, where it has a very clean walk up to the band, and then bam, it just follows it until we get this detach up here. And it looks like that's what we're setting up now. So we saw Sunday close a really nice candle off of the midline. Still not actionable just yet by my strategy. This would be the actionable close. So we're looking to see how the daily candle closes. And if it closes, anywhere around this upper band, as long as it's not full-blown rejection, this is a long signal. And so, it's not financial advice, but the typical setup or the typical stop loss, especially if you're trading trading spot, I personally don't like to put stops on spot. Because it's such a high time frame, I'd rather just wait for I don't want to ride the volatility through it. I'd rather just wait to see how a candle closes. And so rather than putting a stop loss, we would say, okay, we'll just wait to see if the candle closes below this fella right here. Or, if we see some significant red that brings us further inside the band, like here, for example, this would be, a sign to maybe tighten our stops or at minimum, reduce size. But you can see, even if you use this closing strategy, you would have been long this whole time, right? So when we have this breakout up here, you stay long until the market closes below this fella, and it never closed below it. So even though it had all these wicks that went below it, it just never had that stop trigger, right? So you would have been long in the trade the whole time. So when I'm trading spot, I prefer to have manual stops. I'm looking for closes, not for volatility, because we all know how volatile crypto can be intraday, and we don't care about that. We care about the grand scheme of things going up, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and update our notes here. So I'm kind of doing this out of order, but I want to address this first. So daily BBands looks very promising, as we have the squeeze into BBands expansion. Squeeze, we'll write it like this, squeeze into BBands expansion. We want to see the daily closing with an acceptance of the upper band. Yeah, so basically what I just went into. And here's the squeeze, right? So we see the squeeze coming in, boom, and we see this really clean expansion of the bands, which says consolidation over. The reason why we don't want to see a rejection off the upper band is because this is, on some occasions, this can be a fake out. And so if we see weakness off the upper band, we want to be mindful of where it closes next. But we shouldn't just assume a fake out, right? We want to have objective stops. And when we see this expansion of the bands here, this says consolidation over, new trend begin, right? So I'll add that. Squeeze, BBands squeeze into, I know there's I forget what John Bollinger calls it. There's an actual formal name that he calls it when the bands expand, but we'll just say into band expansion says consolidation over, new trend begins. And we were consolidated for a long time. We were in this thing for basically a month, right? Was it a month? It was 3 weeks. 3 weeks pretty much. But that's a long consolidation. It's one of the longer ones we've had in a while. You know, we had this guy right here, but this was like exceptionally flat. And we see that represented on the weekly candles. So if we go to the weekly candles, I mean, just like look at all these dojis. This is the most amount of back-to-back dojis we've seen, basically since I think it was like 2016 was the last time we saw that many weekly dojis in a row. So this is like pretty rare that the market does this, where it just like comes up and just dojis sideways. But if we can get a move back up to the BBands on the weekly, this thing's still got some juice left in it, right? So if we can get a move up to here on the weekly, basically by next Sunday, that would signal a weekly continuation. You know, so something like, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be like this, but you can see, you know, once we get a weekly close on the BBands and we get the attach, it rides upward. You know, here's an example again. Of course, we have just a ton of examples like this, right? So, you know, the day of reckoning will come for the late bulls, where we do see a profound pullback that really gut checks everyone. But right now, it doesn't. The charts don't really say that that's what's in store, right? Obviously, we need to wait 6 more days to see where the BBands close, or where the daily. Jesus, my brain. To see where the weekly candle closes. But the daily is promising, and the daily will tease what the weekly is going to do next, right? Daily closes before the weekly. Sorry, guys. Sneezing. It's pollen season over here. What else we want to say? Okay, so entry signal would be a daily close that accepts or attaches to the upper band with a stop below. I don't know if there's a formal name for this. We'll go ahead and trademark it right now. Below the I'll say the attachment candle, and the attachment candle is this guy. So it'll be the candle that gets us velcroed to the upper band. So in this case, it would be this guy. If we look at bearish examples, it would be this fella, right? This guy, and yeah, you guys get the idea, right? With a stop below, with a stop, I'll say stop triggered by a close, by a daily close below the attachment candle. And we'll say this is BTC.